Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to today's session of Sunday Live Discussion. And this session is brought to you courtesy My Secret Bookshelf, which is an online bookstore, and they have a virtual book club as well. For more details, link in the bio, or you can log on to www.mysecretbookshelf.com. I'm your host for today, Aditi Chandak, and as you would have known by now, I'm a chartered accountant and I'm also an author. I have been donning various hats as a student journalist, as a research assistant, as a short story author, and a novelist. My debut book, Under the Crescent Moon, got published just before the world went under lockdown, February 2020. And it's available on Amazon and Flipkart both. So I hope you'll hop on there after this. Meanwhile, our guest, who's been very patiently listening to my introductions, Mr. Rahul Saini, welcome here. And I'm such a huge fan. Obviously, I'll tell you a story at a later point in time. But for the sake of everyone, Rahul Saini, he's an architect and an author. He's also written 5 books, not one, he's written 5 hugely popular books. And those small little things, just like in the movies, The Orange Hangover, Paperback Dreams, and Just for You. So these are the 5 best-selling novels that he's authored. He's trained as an architect from Sushant School of Art and Architecture, Gurgaon. He's also the founder of Mind Ring, an online institute that promotes various forms of art and healthy reading habits among students across the country. So welcome, Rahul. And I'm hoping more and more people will join in. I just see a few right now, but yeah, we'll get some more crowd in. Welcome. How are you doing?
I'm good. You forgot to mention the 2 books which came out last year and the year before. So
Oh, I'm so sorry. So
that's okay.
seven actually.
The 7.
Okay. Which are the two?
So the part I love, the part I left with you is the newest entry which came out last year, and it's one book which I think. Hi Aditya, nice to see you here. So it's the latest one, and I've put all of my mind in it, and it's
Okay.
it's a long conversation about the thoughts and beliefs that I have, and the one before that was a complete antithesis of my beliefs, which was I saw a lot of stuff happening around in the entertainment industry, I might add. So, and I don't agree with a lot. So it was just my, you might call frustration, to just make people aware that you are being fed with this, and
Okay.
just be aware of what that all is. So I just notched up everything and just showed them the kind of stuff that's out there, which is called "I Love to Hurt You." So these are the 2 which just came out in the last 2 years.
Oh wow, congratulations. So that's
Thank you.
more than I expected. Okay. Great. So, just where I want to start from, and the story that I was mentioning. So, it might sound a bit lame, but it was way back, like the last decade that we had, where I'd come across those small little things. And I was at some book fair or something of that sort, and the cover just attracted me so much. I was like, I have to pick this up. And I ended up reading that book, and I also ended up reading the Orange Hangover. So those were the two that I actually picked up and read. Just curious as author to author, because of course I spent a lot of time on my book cover because I needed it in a certain format, and because I was attracted to your book cover, which led me to pick it up. What do you think? Do people really judge books by the cover, or is that something that's true? That it doesn't happen. How do you go about
But
it with 10 books
so
in your kitty now?
So the second cover, which is a white cover with that collage thing for
Yeah.
those small things, that's a cover which I have designed myself. And
Oh,
yeah, and for Orange Hangover also, I was very actively involved, and I got the illustrations made for that cover as well.
okay.
So I don't know. See, okay. Let me go back to some theories of design, and let me come back to this. So there's this whole theory about form and visual arts, and what's the importance of visual arts and all that. I am an architect, and I'm quite into architecture theory as well. So there's this question of form versus function. you know so and it's always a very heated debate कि क्या ज्यादा important है, building का form ज्यादा important है या building a function are important here, and while designing what should you take care, what should you focus on that on more. And I'm always like, it has to go hand in hand, both are equally important. You cannot override one with another. But there's a school of thought which believes agar building का function ठीक नहीं है, it's all gonna collapse, nothing's gonna work. I don't believe so,
Yes.
because अगर देखने में अच्छी नहीं, कोई अंदर नहीं घुसेगा function देखने के लिए कि है क्या. So I was reading this book, Ways of Seeing by John Berger, way back when I had just started teaching and all of that. So it opens in a way that, a child, before actually when he enters into the world outside the womb of the mother, the first new thing that he comes across is the vision. So we are all
Right.
very visual beings. We are visual beings, and our whole system is derived and governed by it. So let us accept this from the very beginning and not keep contradicting and not keep conflicting with this idea. We are visual beings, and that's how things are. Let's accept this. Opposed to, some other kind of species, like unka sound zyada heightened hota hai, like the bats, and
Right.
some other, and dogs have a sense of smell that's more dominant. Our vision is what guides us through. So covers make a difference for me. I have accepted the fact, yes, if a book has a pretty cover, I will pick it up. If it has a dull cover, I might miss it, and it's
Right.
only after I see the image catches my eye first, and then I go on and read what the title is, and then I go on and read what the blurb of the book says. So for me, it does happen like that. So I'm sorry, but and also being a part of the publishing industry for as long as I've been, you know. I know how covers are designed, and I know the kind of effort and input and thought goes into it. It's a whole exercise, just like writing a book.
Right.
So,
Right.
so that's someone just asked, what about the visually impaired? See, the books are presented to the visually impaired in a very different way. So when we start designing an audiobook, it's a completely different presentation and design. So that's a different process altogether. But when it comes to the process of reading, it's that, and okay, so one might put across the idea of what about braille books and all of that. So they in that case, the words come first. In that case, the word comes first. You feel the words. In that case, the titles are more important, the blurbs are more important, yes. But if you're talking about visual reading, I think that's what my understanding goes as.
Yeah, so I think it wouldn't be wrong to say that, obviously the word, the narrative, the story, all of that is important. But for people to at least pick up that book, to read what you've written, that cover needs to be there. That cover needs to be attractive enough for at least some people, to just browse through. Like it happened with me. I mean, I just looked at the cover and I knew I wanted to read this book. So I think that does work for a lot of people. But yes, Pooja, to answer your question, of course, the words will be more important. The story will be more important. This is
Yeah,
just another aspect that we're making sure happens.
I have read books which had very pretty covers, but they turned out to be disappointments. So I guess that is kind of like, it justifies the idea that don't judge a book by its cover. Probably you
Yeah.
shouldn't judge it, but yes, it definitely is the first step to attract you. Someone's asking, when are you going to write a fantasy or horror, knowing your love for them? So something is in the process, and
Okay.
it might be for younger readers. I might focus on teenagers as I'm writing that story, but as I haven't finished it, as nothing's sent to
But
a
which
publisher,
one is it?
so
Is it fantasy or horror? Or is it horror fantasy?
it's I think it's horror fantasy.
Okay.
See, I don't really
It's coming up.
genre. I don't really believe in genres. I think stories are stories, and they have different. They demand a treatment, and the treatment some people call genre. So when I sit down to write a story, it just comes to me as a story, and what it has to say determines the way I want to treat it. So for
Absolutely.
me,
The genre
it's
comes later.
yeah.
Great, great. So this has been interesting, and this was actually one of my questions. I'm going to come back to this horror fantasy thing. If you're willing to, give us more details, we'll come back to that at a later point in time. But what I've also been curious about is how has the journey been so far? Because it's been a decade or more of writing, if I'm not wrong.
It's in 2009. 2009 December was, or was it 2008? I don't want to pull out the book from the shelf. Anyway, so it was around that. So it's been more than a decade. Yes, how has the journey been? I've had my ups and downs, everyone else, and like every other thing. It's a part of life. It's like life. So there've been ups, there've been downs. So it's been like that.
Okay, okay. Any memorable moments, when the first book came out, or maybe when you landed a new publisher? or when you decided that this is what you want to continue doing, considering you've obviously written 7 books, this is almost a full-time profession, right?
Obviously, see, I started with a very small publisher. Then I went on to a bigger one. I signed up with Jayco. Then Penguin came across, and then I
Mhm.
signed up with Penguin. And the previous 2 books are with Juggernaut. So all of them have their strength, which are very very different from each other. It was
Absolutely.
such a pleasurable experience to work with Jayco. They actually treat you like family. There is
Oh,
nothing formal. They just welcome you to their office,
okay.
and they're just basically such nice people. I can't express enough. Akash Shah, who
Okay.
runs the show, is definitely the most polite person I've ever come across in the whole of publishing industry. So that was a different experience altogether. Penguin is Penguin. It's the biggest house that we have, and the kind of mechanism they have, no one can match. So it's a different kind of a ride altogether, and I've made some very good friends in the publishing house as well, and I've been in touch with them for over years and years. So that's a different kind of a experience altogether. Coming to Juggernaut, their editing process is so impeccable, it's not even funny. Like they put so much of stress on editing, and the levels that they touch while editing the book. That was
Mhm.
something which was happening for the first time when I started working with them for the sixth
Okay.
book of mine. So
Okay.
so all of them have their own unique strengths, and it's been a lot of fun and a lot of learning experience as well.
Great, great. That's so good to hear, especially with Juggernaut, because their writing platform that they have in place is so helpful. Because even though you're not published, if you're just speculating whether you should go ahead or not, it's so helpful because it almost works like a beta reader platform. you
Yeah.
you get to understand what are people looking for. And I agree, like they've been very helpful. Of course, didn't have such an expansive experience as you did, but just their writing platform being available has been so helpful, because you know where you want to land, you know what sort of things people are looking for, and is it gripping enough if you're writing, because I generally tried with short stories with them, and the kind of response that you get is really helpful. So that's there with them, of course. So, where do you draw your inspiration from? Like you said, the entertainment industry, a horror fantasy book coming up.
Okay, so someone's praising me. Thank you so much, Antra, and so happy to hear that. Where does my inspiration come from? See, I think as a writer, one writes about either the things that you agree with or either the things that you don't agree with, and it goes like hand in hand. So at times I would see something happening around, and I would want to say something about it. I would just put my thoughts across, and there might be something which I think that this is the way it should be, and more people should follow this. And I don't see that happening, so I might write about that. That's
Okay.
my basic thought process. I find it slightly difficult to get ideas because I don't I've not been able to do formula writing. Let's be very honest. I can't. I tried and I failed. So formula writing hota nahi hai mere se. So I have to find out something which I really feel for in a positive or a negative way. And I travel when the world was open, when we used to travel. I used to travel. I used to come across things. I used to see things. Ideas used to strike my mind, and then I would sit down to write at times. Now what happens is that I read a news article, I see something on the television, I listen to some music, it exposes me to some emotion which I had kind of
Mhm.
lost touch with. So
Right.
so that's how I get my inspirations.
Okay. Okay. That's so interesting, because I have been talking to a lot of authors over this whole Sunday live discussion series that we've been happening. And everyone seems to have a very different method of writing. Like there's no textbook method that anyone seems to be following. And yours is something that stands out, like everyone else's, of course, because everyone has their own unique way. And that's great to hear. So when that happens, like you said, you don't do formula writing. Then how do you really come up with your characters? How do you put the narrative in perspective? How do you storyboard, or do you just write and go with the flow? Ki jahan jayenge dekha jayega. Something of that sort.
So I do storyboard. I always do have a basic sketch. Antra is
Mhm.
saying that it's like finding the right match for marriage.
And
Well, it's
finding a publisher is easier, trust me.
I would agree to that. I would agree to that. So it was such a distracting question. Aditi, you have to come back with your question
Sure,
again.
sure. No problem. So actually, I was asking because you just wing it. You don't really follow a formula-based method for writing. How do you go about with your storyboarding, narrative, character sketches?
Okay, so I do always have a basic sketch of my
Mhm.
story in place. I know where things are going to begin. I know what's the major chunk, what actually is going to happen, and then I also have a fair idea about how things are going to end.
Right.
Many times the ending changes. Like it's
Okay.
happened more than once with
Mhm.
me. Like while I'm writing, I do change the end, and at times I write multiple endings as well, and then I read all of them, and then I pick up the
Ah,
one that I
okay.
want to go with.
Okay.
So. And also, I would always have a set of main characters, and I always try to keep the number of characters low because that's the kind of reading I like. I don't like,
Mhm.
a whole bunch of characters coming together, and a few minor characters which are just there to say something, but not an integral part of the story. I find that not very comforting, so I try to avoid doing
Okay.
that in my stories. At times some new characters do pop up because there are certain things that I want to say in the story, and then I do need another character to just put the ideas across. So
Be the
that's
catalyst, maybe. Hmm. Okay. So, when you say, storyboarding or you're coming up with character sketches, so you said you draw inspiration from maybe reading a news article, some emotion which was, hidden or lost comes through. How do you end up researching for the characters? Because obviously, we can't have Rahul Saini as all of the characters, right? There has to be, or maybe we can, who knows?
okay.
But
Okay.
we obviously need to
And
inspire ourselves from somewhere else. So do you go about researching the characters, or are they pulled out of people you know?
so generally, it happens is that I can't say I base my characters on people around me, but I base my characters on some behavioral actions of the people around me.
Okay.
That definitely happens.
Mhm.
So when I observe that kind of a behavior, I do fixate on that. And then I start building a whole character around it according to my
Okay.
own perception of psychology and understanding of life and so on and so
Right,
forth.
right.
So that's how it generally happens. Addressing the idea that do we have the author always in the text, I would say yes. And no matter who is the author, they mostly there's always some minor character here and there who is exactly like the author himself or herself, but it's also that whatever an author is writing, it's coming from his or her own mind.
Mhm.
So so it either has to be the thesis of his beliefs or the antithesis of his beliefs or her
Hmm.
beliefs. So it's always there, like it always the text is coming from the author, so it has to have a part of the author.
Absolutely. Okay, that's good to hear. So, difficult question coming up. I've shown you a lot of easy ones now. Rahul Saini, who started in 2009, or maybe earlier, 2007, 6, whenever you did start writing on your first novel, and you today, how do you see your evolution as an author? What are the major aspects that have changed, or if you could just run us through those?
I have, lived for a decade, and I have changed. I have grown as a person for sure. I pick up my first book. I don't like it anymore. I disagree with it. I disagree with so much, and
Okay.
in fact, I'm kind of working on special editions of my first two books,
Oh,
and I've kind of done editing the second one, and
okay.
I have removed so much. It's not even funny.
Wow.
I have a better understanding, I would say, of a few things. I was
Mhm.
insensitive to a few things before. I didn't see them as I should have. So,
Okay.
so all of that. And I don't shy away from saying that they are not very superior in their text of expression, in expression
Okay.
and in the quality of the text as well. And I do think I have come some way, at least, if I put my latest book and my first book next to each other.
Mhm.
And I still believe that it's not good enough if I start comparing it to the works of my masters. So I still have a long way to go. So that's how I would see my work from the beginning till what I've published just now.
That's very humble of you, and in fact, that's very brave of you also to pick up earlier editions or the earlier publications that you had and actually sit and edit them again, or try to bring out special editions because that requires a lot of rework, and that also requires you to delve into what you'd written or who you were as a person and coming to terms with that. So, I mean, kudos to that. Definitely picking those up as well. So, I can also compare what's really happened between those small little things from then to now. So there goes. So how are you managing the time? You say you're coming up with like a horror fantasy novel. You're coming up with special editions of your first two books, and you're still working as an architect, right? So how are you juggling all of this?
It's kind of like I used to compartmentalize my time, and I used to go like this is happening at this part of the day, and then but since the last 2 years, since the pandemic,
Mhm.
I've kind of put things on autopilot. So I don't have deadlines for the
Mhm.
books that I'm writing anymore,
Okay.
and because being at home all the time and managing the things that I am, I have come to understand my mind is not always in a position to sit down and write satisfyingly.
Right.
So, I've stopped managing, and I've just given up the desire to command the time and the way it goes. So that's what
Okay.
it is.
You're not pushing yourself anymore. You're just like, ho jayega.
I tried,
I-
a few drafts came out so unsatisfyingly bad that I was like, if I won't even send them to the publisher, what's the point of writing them down?
Okay, okay. So, have you faced this before, or is it a pandemic generated thing that you think it is? Is it writer's block? How do you get to a writer's block?
It's not a writer's block because I need my personal space and personal time to write.
Mhm.
I need to detach. I need to have my own secluded space, which is not happening during this pandemic, sadly, because things have just,
Mm-hmm.
flowed into each other, and life has
Yeah.
just become an
Our
intangible
lives
mush
are
of
no longer different.
understanding.
Everything's just a mash.
Yeah, much of things. So that's the reason. But I have faced what I would not want to call it a writer's block. I would just want to call it like running out of ideas.
Okay.
So and that has happened with me. I just let myself loose. I've tried forcing myself. Then the most obvious solution is to start aping or start taking clues
Right.
from something out there consciously, which I don't believe
Mhm.
in. If you are putting, I took an average of minimum 1 year to write a book, no matter how small it might be. The last one
Okay.
that I wrote, I gave it 5 long years to
Right.
finish. So I don't rush my books, and if I'm investing that much of time, I would not want to pick up and write something which has already been done before. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I
Right.
would rather try to push something out original. If someone understands it, well and good. If it doesn't, okay, doesn't matter. But that's
Okay.
how I.
So, the last one that you say took 5 years was the part I left with you, the one that was a thesis of yourself, in a way.
So I was working with the idea of yin and yang and the opposites and all of that. So the part I left with you and Love to Hurt You were one single book once upon a time,
Okay.
but they were only connected with concept and thought and not with plot. So when the publishers took a look at it and they said
Mhm.
that no one's going to understand, things are not coming together in plot in the end. So don't make them one single book, make them two different books. So that's how
Okay.
it happened. But the whole process of writing those two books, or that one book which was split into two later, was more than 5 years actually. I think by the time the second book got published, it was more than 6 years or so. I don't know.
Okay. Okay. That's great. I mean, 6 years, investing 6 years writing a particular book, and we somehow seem to finish it in maybe 2 days. How does that feel, when a reader is done with 6 years of your hard work in, say, 2 or 3 days?
See that's how most of art goes. If you look at how oil paintings used to be made back in the day, or even now, oil paintings take such a long time to be made.
Okay.
And we look at it for what, like 5 minutes,
Yeah.
in one go. And then if you look at movies, there have been films that have been in production for such a long time, and the shooting process is so long and extensive. But if you get into the idea of conceptualization, writing the script, and all of that, that's how most of the art happens. Photography is something quicker. You might be trying to get a shot, but when you
Mhm.
get a shot, it happens like in one go. So I used to have some of my friends. Some friends used to be into wildlife photography, and they would have
Mhm.
this one thing
Yeah,
that
the
I
one
want this
picture
shot,
that they
for
took
which
3
they
hours
might,
to
yeah,
shoot.
for which they might need to wait for, like, years. Happened. It was one click,
Right.
and it happened, and it was done. So most of the art forms have that kind of a. That's the nature of art, I believe.
Absolutely, but I'm just curious, what does the artist think about it? Because like I also paint, I sketch and all of that. So it takes a lot of time, but people just glance through and they're like, oh yeah, sundar hai. I'm like, no, it's more than that. But as an artist, how do you feel?
I think the aim is basically to make them feel the emotion, and
Right.
that's what the effort is being put in for.
Hmm.
So if they're able to feel that emotion, even so Neha is here, she's saying a big fan. Thank you so much, Neha. Nice to see you here. So if you are able to convey that emotion even for like a second, I think that's the success.
Great. That's really lovely to hear. And while we are on this, whole journey of how you've been writing, how did you start? Where did it start from? Have you always been writing? Is it something you enjoy doing as a enjoy reading, and maybe you wanted to write something of your own? Where did this whole journey begin from?
I think I would say that the, the seed was sown with my fascination of books as objects when I was a toddler.
Okay.
My grandfather used to have loads and loads of books. I have gathered way more than what it was back then. What he had, but like I used to play with my toys and I used to play with the books, and I had
Wow.
no idea back then, uh, what exactly they are and what happens and all of that. So it was the first fascination, and I just wanted to be a part of this whole, what is this thing. I want to, like, some kids are fascinated, they want to make toys and they want to make
Yeah,
games. I want to make books. But after that, when I was in school, I don't think I had a major drive or anything like that. I always enjoyed reading books, definitely. Around sixth and seventh standard, I tried writing poetry. It was so bad. It's not funny. It's so bad. Poetry is not my cup of tea. So and I don't even understand it as well. I can't even appreciate it. So writing is a far cry. I tried writing for the college magazines, but the kind of stuff that I used to write, it used to come out so allegorical that they couldn't understand it. So they were like, it never got published.
Right.
So,
Okay.
and I tried writing this one novel when I was in college in the first year. It was some very crazy, sarcastic parody kind of a thing based on the friends and my classmates, and trying to do all of that. So I never got down to finish it because the 5 years of college were really, really extensive and all of that. But when I finished college, I just thought that, we all face this bunch of dissatisfaction when we finish college. That this is not how life was supposed to be, and we didn't spend all our, a good 2 decades of our life grilling ourselves to just enslave ourselves the way we have just enslaved. So there was a lot of dissatisfaction, and that's what led to the writing of my first book.
Okay.
And and that, I don't know, I think certain things are destined, so that worked so phenomenally well that I can't even understand how it happened and why it happened, so the book went ahead to sell as much as it did, and then the gates were opened, so I never looked back.
So you have been trying for a while, just not things that were a cup of tea.
Yes, I think subconsciously it was always. I think even as a kid, I used to have this notion that I would want to grow up and become a writer, and then I was told it doesn't get you enough money, and then some kind of like. Okay, let's drop it. Kind of. I won't talk about it again. I'm sorry.
Alright. So yeah, so while we are on that, I'm sure we have listeners who are all aspiring authors. At least some of them are. Some of them intend to become best-selling authors. Like we all start, right? We all start out with stars in our eyes, imagining we'll all become best-selling authors. So how has the process been? Because I want people to understand. Like it was. I had mentors and editors who were really helpful and who helped me understand that you just focus on your writing and the rest will come out to be. But what would you say to all of those aspiring authors? How difficult is this? Should they have a plan B? Should they be doing this on the sides? Should they delve into it full time? From the practical aspects of picking that up as a career.
So I'm going to be very blunt and honest, and maybe a little vile, if I can use the word. So different people write for different reasons.
Mhm.
Some of them want to write because they want to become famous. That is something very difficult to achieve. Some want to become, some don't even know how the industry works, and they want to write because they want to become rich. It's not, if you want to become rich, if you want to become famous, this is not the best option. There are other ways using which you can become rich, you can become famous, and it's more guaranteed in
Hmm.
that area. uh, in writing, it's very difficult to do. So get your perspective right in the first place. And if you're of those kinds that oh, I don't read but I want to write, then you shouldn't. Because if you fall in that category, you will never be able to understand the shortcomings of your writing. And if you yourself never understand the shortcomings of your writing, you will never be able to polish your writing or be open minded enough to follow someone else who's trying to help you polish your writing. And then your writing's always gonna be patchy, bad, to put it blatantly, and it won't go far. There's a limit to the marketing machinery can catapult your work to. So you can't go far with that. That's that. What was your main question? I started ranting. I'm
So
sorry.
no, no, that's fine. You were completely on point so far. But just wondering, people who want to take it up as a full-time career, or who
Okay.
just like we want to go into writing full-time. So what for them?
Okay. So anything which you enjoy doing, anything which is you think it's your passion, I would say don't connect money to it. I've experienced it. There was a time when I never did that. There was a time when I did that. Then there's a time now when I don't do that again. And it's because of the learning that I had. If you start connecting the idea of money to your work, see, commercials happen very differently, and artistic expressions happen very differently. One book, one film will click, and you'll be suggested to write something similar. We had 50 Shades of Grey,
Yeah.
and it worked so well. It made publishing history. Everyone started suggesting kuch वैसा लिख के दो. We had Harry Potter, it made publishing history. Everyone suggested kuch ऐसा लिख के दो. We had Gone Girl, it made publishing history. कुछ ऐसा लिख के दो. So and you will succumb to this pressure if you want your book to become a bestseller. you know and tell me if I'm wrong. There's not been another 50 Shades of Grey, there's not been another Harry Potter, there's not been another Gone Girl. When you start imitating, you're just fooling yourself. You won't be able to create a masterpiece. It has been made, it's been done, and
Right.
all other imitations are gonna grow pale in front of the original. This is something which I don't know, no one seems to understand. कि वो
Mhm.
हो गया है यार, कुछ नई चीज. Understand the times that you're living in, pick up something from the times that you're living in that might click, as opposed to उसने कर दिया, they were successful, now let's start doing it as well. So you will be free of these pressures only if you're not writing with this burden of writing a bestseller. So follow your own thoughts, write what you want to. uh, be aware, be sharpen your intelligence, sharpen your thoughts and senses, and understand what is happening and write accordingly. That is how you get relatable bestsellers. So that's what I. And also have something on the side which can get you enough money, which you don't
Which
have a
pays the
moral
bills.
obligation to do in a certain specific way. Because see, it's very difficult to identify something that satisfies you in terms of work. Okay, and you don't want to lose it, because if you start connecting the ideas of gaining money from it, you will stop enjoying it. So don't do that to yourself. It's something which is very precious. Let me be as crass as possibly one can. You don't want to go sharing your girlfriend with anyone, no? So that's for you. It's exclusive. Keep it to yourself and enjoy and maintain the love. Don't go spreading things around like that.
I don't have a follow-up question on this at all. But I
Um,
do have a follow-up question. One of the things you said earlier, that there are a lot of people who say that they don't read and hence they should not really pick up writing because they won't be doing justice to the art of it. So, what would be, maybe top five book recommendations that Rahul Saini would put through that you definitely need to read these? Not because it'll make you a better writer, but because, you've been probably so attracted to those particular books and maybe it shaped you as a person. What would those be?
I can identify my favorite authors if that's what we are getting at.
I think that works. Yeah.
So, so I think some of the earlier works of Haruki Murakami are phenomenal. Like they are
Mm.
mind-boggling. They're so good. I haven't found his like recent books as satisfying, but his earlier books are the books that I worship. There's this Spanish author called Carlos Ruiz Zafón. I think he is phenomenal. Whether he writes teen fiction, whether he writes for adults, I think he's just outstanding. I recently discovered last year or so Anthony Doerr, and I read his wonderfully beautiful book called All the Light We Cannot See. I loved it. Then Neil Gaiman is one of my all-time favorite authors. Although not all of his books I've enjoyed, but
Mhm.
this Ocean at the End of the Lane is definitely one of my biggest
Okay.
favorites. And then we have Stardust is another book which I really enjoyed.
Okay.
And apart from that, David Mitchell, the way he writes, the way he imagines, the way he thinks is it's out of this world. And the way he's building his whole literary universe is something which is so exciting. And
Okay.
these are the names that I can just think of. Other authors which have really inspired me and helped me understand. George R. R. Martin is one. Aditya, why is he not finishing his book? Why is he not finishing his book? It's so disappointing. Uh, Andra, I'll come back to your question for getting influenced by someone's writing. So, Salman Rushdie is a writer which
Yes.
I don't enjoy reading much because it's hard. It's hard, but there is so much to learn as a writer. When you read any of his works, there's so much to learn. It's
I'm
just not.
realizing that now.
Yeah, I finished Kishort some time back, and I am reading
Okay.
his set of essays that came
Okay.
language. What is it called? Truth, languages of truth. It's
Yeah.
phenomenal. Andra saying Cloud Atlas is my favorite. My favorite too. Andra, did you finally get down to read Dune? That's one favorite sci-fi that I read so late. But I think Dune is definitely one strong recommendation. Uh, yeah, did I answer your question,
Yes,
or
yes,
did
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have more than this. I actually jotted down so that I can get my next reading list from authors. So yeah, a
okay?
few are definitely going to go on my reading list for 2022. So yes, I have books
Andra was
and
saying that there are certain authors who say that they don't want to read because they don't want to get their writing influenced. I understand that, and I follow that as well. There are, you see, when you have an idea clear in your mind, you know that this is the kind of I don't want to read similar kind of stories.
Mm-hmm.
So, like if I'm writing a relationship drama, I would stay away from Sally Rooney. You know,
Right.
but I would read Stephen King, and I would
Mm.
read other genres or other kind of stories. So it's okay. You have to understand that how your mind works, and you have to make sure that the influence doesn't happen, but at the same time, you know, You can't say that a filmmaker can't say that I don't watch films because I don't want to get influenced. There are techniques, there are methods, there are ways to do things,
Right.
and also the linguistic expressions and the experimentation that happens in text. All of that. There's no way you can know how it is done. And a musician can't say that I don't want to learn classical music and I will just start creating music. You have to understand what is the art in the first place. Only then you
Absolutely.
can create that art. So I don't. Stephen King is phenomenal, yes, Aditya, but some of his books are so disturbing that I'm not too sure that how I enjoy them. But yes, his writing has a lot to say. His writing is very thought provoking.
Hmm. Great. So, Antara, I think that answers your question. And if anyone has any more questions, please feel free to put it in because I just have like a couple more to go before we close this session. So, put in your questions now and we'll pick it up. Was just wondering, for writers who are looking to publish, while writing, of course, is something that we all manage to do. We pick it up. Some of us have a talent for it. Some of us develop it. The publication of that book is a very different ballgame altogether because once you're done with your writing, you have to go to copy editing, beta readers, marketing campaigns, all of that. So, how would you suggest young authors figure it out? How do you suggest they go about it? And it can be very very scary for a lot of us, because we're done with it and now we're lost. We're like, what do we do even do with this manuscript that we have? So,
Okay.
what would be like tips of the tricks of the trade for them?
All right. So, see, back in the day when I got my first book published, it was a very different landscape altogether. Things have become difficult, and things have become easy as well. Today, if anyone wants to get published, I would straight away say that don't approach a publisher on your own. Get an agent. It makes things so much simpler.
Hmm.
Before that, you need to make sure your writing is in place, it's of an acceptable quality, and it is good literature, and don't just write anything and everything and expect it to publish. So that's what my piece of advice is. And also, while you're searching for a publisher, pick up a publisher who has the mental space to work with you and who understands your work and who has time for you. Like, let us say that, I think, what's his name, who who agented Arundhati Roy's work. He is based in Australia, if I'm not mistaken, Dan someone.
Okay.
So I can't expect, him to pick up my book and make me the next Booker winner or something. I have to
Hmm.
understand where I am at, and I have to
Yeah.
understand, what my capabilities and my potential is, and then approach someone who suits that whole
And see,
setup.
all of
So
this wouldn't be possible if you don't read, because it that when you understand which publishing houses are taking up which genre of books or what are they looking at, so you have to be in that zone. You have to understand what kind of books are being published, because you pick up a very no offense, but if people pick up a really really serious topic which has very few takers and yet intend to become like a national bestseller, that would be difficult because there has to be a market for that sort of book, right? It, at least if it doesn't match with your ambitions. I mean, if your ambition is to get that book out and to even touch one person, that's fine. But if with that sort of a book, maybe say another 50 Shades of Grey, just to take your example, you write something which is very similar to that, but you don't realize that it's not what the days or the times require today, then you would be very off from the reality, right? So you've really ended up just aping someone and not realizing that that's not what readers are looking for. So I think that would be important for people to really marry with reality and understand what's working right now and what's not.
see, let me not pick up anyone else's example, and let me pick up my own example. You pick up my initial books, you pick up my later books. Okay, you read them both.
See, this is
And
your sense too much.
and then the readers tell me, what happened, and the readers tell me which is better and which is bad. And because I read them and I can see that, you know, I wrote the initial books following my instinct. I was always a reader, but now I have read a lot more, and I have read a
Mhm.
lot more of quality literature.
Yeah.
Now I have gained an MA in English. I understand literature
Oh.
better. Back then it was all instinctive. So, and I can see the difference. There's a huge difference in terms of readability and the meaning that's coming through, and the finesse of the expressions that has developed. So, so don't look at anyone else's work. Look at mine, and then tell me, do you still think you should not read and write?
Wow. I think that's a great closing statement. I don't want to destroy that. And let me just see if we have any further questions. I don't think we missed anyone. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there was one, right? When can we expect your next book? And I think I'll take that as the last question with more details in the horror fantasy novel that's coming up.
The honest, simple answer to it is I don't know. The ambiguous, predictable answer is maybe next year, because
Oh, okay.
I might finish the first draft.
It's just the beginning of this new year.
Sorry.
It's just the beginning of this new year.
Yeah, yeah. So no, see, I probably will take a few months to finish it. Then it'll go to the publishers. Then they will evaluate. Then they'll look where they can fit it in their catalogs. And then
Yeah.
by that time, the catalog for the later half of the year, the autumn catalog already must have been
Yeah.
done. So earliest can be, the spring catalog for the next year, and it's going to be a very short book as well. It's not going to be a very long book. So so let's see. Hopefully next year is what my answer is.
Great. Aditya, I hope that answers your questions. And I'm sure people have a lot many questions. I know I have a lot many questions, so I will definitely reach out to you, Rahul, separately.
Sure.
And do leave your questions in the comments. I'll be saving this video. So please do feel free to put in your comments, and I'm sure Rahul will answer when he can find the time. And with that, I'll be wrapping this up. Any last words for our viewers who've been so patient through this entire conversation?
Yeah, I saw a lot of hearts, and I'm so happy to see that. And I still see a good figure of the people watching it still. So happy to see that. Thank you so much, guys. And if you have any publishing or reading queries, always get in touch. And thanks for listening. Thank you so much.
Great, great. Thank you so much, Rahul. Thank you for being such a wonderful guest. And to
I did
everyone,
want to talk about your work as well, because I just got to know about it last night, and I wasn't able to go through it. But maybe we can have another session for that.
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much. That would indeed be an honor. Thank you. And
Well,
to everyone here, thank you so much. And stay safe, take care, and we'll be back next week with yet another discussion. Thank you so much. It's been a
thank you.
pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks, Antra.